Awesome. Welcome back to the Grow Like a Mother podcast. This week's episode is especially good if you've ever found yourself answering emails during dinner or folding laundry during Zoom calls or feeling guilty no matter where you are. This episode is going to be for you because today I'm joined by Courtney Cecil, who is the founder of the Working Moms Movement. She's a powerhouse when it comes to helping moms reclaim their time, their energy, and their presence. And not only that, she's a Fortune 50 culture leader and a podcast host and a wife and a mom and someone who deeply understands the daily juggle. Today, we're going to be diving into why the whole idea of work-life balance might be broken, what we can build in its place. We're going to talk about the biggest time wasters that you might be experiencing and a to-do list versus a wish list. I love this idea. Courtney's going to share some smart, actionable ways to ditch the guilt, draw better boundaries, and finally stop feeling like you're constantly failing someone, everyone. If you've been craving a version of success that includes your own well-being and your ambition, this conversation is really going to meet you where you are. I'm so excited to dive in. Courtney, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Jill. I so appreciate you.
Yeah, I'm so glad we got connected. And as you were saying before we hit record, we're really in this complementary space in terms of the work that we do. I wonder if you could just give the listeners Cole's notes of the organization you run and why you started it.
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. Working Moms Movement is really intended to help give moms the freedom, both from a stress and time perspective, that we often don't feel like we have, in the interest of both being more present and actually really enjoying the ride. It is a long one. Like, if you think about so many of our listeners, Jill, and both of our podcasts that are just in the thick of it, I keep telling people, oh my gosh, y'all still have like 18 years to go. It's a long time to be in a place where you just feel like you're surviving on a day-to-day basis as opposed to really thriving. So I want moms to be able to enjoy that journey. And it is because of my own burnout that I started this business. It is something that I'm very passionate about. As you indicated, I do have a full-time role leading culture to Fortune 50. So that is very much, that's enough for me from a intellectual and emotional stimulation perspective if I needed it. But I care so deeply about this topic and enabling moms, and most especially just recognizing that women in particular tend to be the ones to step away from their career or take the more flexible role. And I don't ever want women to feel like that they have to do that. If they do it, I want it to be because they are fully aligned with that decision and it's something that works for their family, as opposed to feeling like the only way to be more present or to create the experience they want for their kids is to step away from their career, as opposed to believing that it's possible to have a balanced dual income family.
Yeah, I thank you for that distinction too, because I feel like you're right. A lot of people, moms especially, will assume that they can't have both the career and the relationship with their kids that they're sort of after. And it's so wonderful to have these conversations about how we can make it work and like where we can make small tweaks and just shift the way that we think about it too, because at least I think there's a lot of different things where I really like this perspective of your to-do list versus wish list. Like that's a really simple mindset shift that I think if the listeners take one thing away from this episode, it's like, where can we shift how we think about things to create more spaciousness and less guilt in our lives? That's a big one for me. Can you walk us through the difference between thinking about our to-do list as a to-do list and thinking maybe about a wish list instead and what that all entails?
Yeah, I would say pe people's to-do list is quote unquote to-do list is largely what anchors them to both feeling either guilty about what they're not getting done or guilty about all the things that still have to get done. That causes a sense of pressure. It causes us to feel overwhelmed. It causes us to feel like we're not enough. But most of the time when women think that, particularly my clients that I engage with directly on a day-to-day basis, what I find is that they're actually categorizing what I call as wish list items as their to-do list. And those are fundamentally not the same thing. So a wish list item is something that is aspirational but not necessary. And it often doesn't contain hard deadlines. So, as an example, It is you wanting to clean the garage. It is you wanting to organize your storage room. It is you wanting to go through your kids' closets and pull out all of the old items that no longer fit. Those are wish list items. Would it feel great for you to get them done? Of course. But those are not the type of items that we should be like that should be creating baggage in our life because those are the items that create the extra stress and pressure to accomplish more that trust me sister you're going to get to when you get to them, right? Like you're not going to forget those items, they will get done. But oftentimes we add those to our quote unquote to-do list because we feel like they need to, and that's what causes the guilt. That's what causes us to not be able to be present when we're putting down our kids at night because we're worried about getting that kind of stuff done. But if you take a step back and I hold up those items and I'm like, okay, would you rather go through your kid's closet and get rid of all the small items, or would you rather put them down at night and read a book, like a book with them at bedtime? I'm willing to bet most people here would prefer to be able to be present and read the book at bedtime. Well, when you make an intentional choice to do that, that also starts to sift away some of that guilt that is riding along with you very unfairly. So, one of the things that I work with the majority of my clients on is starting to parse through the difference between a productive to-do list, which doesn't include those wish list items. And in fact, it creates a lot of let go list. Because I think about my in-laws as an example. They just retired a year ago. And they swore that as soon as they retired, they were going to tackle their storage room and their garage, which is wall to wall boxes. But guess what? A year's gone by and they haven't touched it. And that's because it's just not a priority to them. And that is okay. So, what I like to tell people is you need to identify what that let go list is because it's stuff that, you know what, maybe one of these days you'll get there. But if you continue to carry around those wish list items, they are going to leave you feeling overwhelmed, leave you feeling stressed, and leave you feeling guilty about what you're not getting done. But an actual to-do list, like a super productive to-do list, is something that you need to do. It's something that's time bound. It's something that is urgent. And when you manage your list to where it's just those items, that's what actually frees your mental load so that you don't have to worry about what you're not completing and gets rid of all that extra noise that keeps you from being able to be present and in the moment and doing the things that you actually really want to do.
I love this so much, and it is so aligned with what I teach as well. I'm curious to know what you tell your clients to do with all of the extra stuff in their head that doesn't now belong on their to-do list. Like, where do these wish list items live so we don't forget them? Do they write them down somewhere? Is it like, what does that look like?
I would encourage them not to write them down at all, to actually just like strike them from the list because that's the kind of thing that you're not going to forget. You're not going to forget to organize your storage room. You will every time you open it to get out a suitcase or to get out Christmas items, you're going to see it. You're not going to forget it. But by writing it down, oftentimes that long list and seeing it grow is what gives you this artificially inflated point of view that you're not enough or you're not doing enough. So if
Mhm.
you keep your to-do list really skinny down to the things that actually need done. A perfect example is I need to move my son's orthodontist appointment. That is a to-do list that has to be done. If it doesn't get done in 2 weeks, we're going to be there at that, like it will be butting up against that appointment. And it's the time's not going to work for us. That has to get done, but something like, gosh, my to-do list or my wish list item now is organizing pictures from the last vacation we took. That's a nice to have. That's not a need to have. So anything like paying bills, anything like appointments, this canceling or moving a subscription item so you don't get billed again. Those are the time bound things that actually need to create space on a to-do list. But otherwise, it's got to go. And what I would say, and what I coach my clients on is if you can just identify 1 to 3 quote unquote projects a week, those are the aspirational items that if you get them finished, you'll feel good. It leaves you in a place where you are moving things intentionally. And that's all I want people to do is be intentional, because when you're intentional with your time, that's when you actually are in a place of time freedom and abundance, as opposed to feeling like you are in a place of time scarcity. So if you can find 1 to 3 projects, depending on the size of them, that you can accomplish each week, that will leave you feeling like you're being productive without actually tanking or leaving you feeling in a place of guilt or overwhelm because you're not getting enough stuff done. But those projects will be so topical based on what's going on at the moment that, once again, I promise you it's not going to be, you're not going to have a hard time coming up with projects. Just as you're never going to forget your wish list items. They're hitting you in the face all the time. But when you track them, that's when you often feel like you're not doing enough and you're not enough. And mom, I'm here to tell you and remind you, you're plenty. Like, you are enough.
Mm, yes. Let's all sit with that for a minute because I think it's, as you said, very easy to fall into this. Okay, it's a mental load too, I think, that comes into the conversation here. And we don't need to keep our mental load on our to-do list. I think that that is a very big piece for us to remember. I like to frame it as like a have-to list versus a hope-to list, you know?
Yeah.
And for anyone who's familiar with the Eisenhower matrix, like Courtney's talking about quadrant one activities, like urgent and important. Those are the things that belong in your to-do list, right? That's fantastic. And I also really like how you talk about bringing intentionality into the decisions here and not sort of letting your list or your calendar lead the way, but really taking control and deciding like what are the things that have to get done that I want to get done that are going to get done this week. And keeping your eye out for things that might be time wasters. You know what I mean? Like those little pieces that sneak up on us and we don't necessarily realize that they're happening because we haven't found that intentional momentum throughout the day. But once we get into this rhythm of being intentional, they're easier to spot. Can you talk to me about time wasters and what sort of those are to you and how you deal with them?
Yeah, I think, let me double click first, Jill, on the piece of intentionality. That is so important to me, because when you are intentional with how you use your time, that is once again what brings you the time freedom, where you're in a place of time abundance as opposed to scarcity. So the way that you can and get more intentional with your time is getting really clear on what you value. Because when you're clear on what you value, that informs what you prioritize. And when you're clear on what you prioritize, that is how you spend your resources, your time, your money, and your energy being your 3 primary resources. So when you pull that thread through and you're clear on what you value, then all of a sudden you know how to spend your time and your energy, which is what allows you to continue to be at your best and make sure that what you're spending your life on is productive for you. And productive might not necessarily mean getting things done. Productive means it is filling your cup up. Productive means that it is living a fulfilled life for you. And that's ultimately what I wish for everybody, is that when your years go past, you don't look back and think, what the heck did I spend it on? So the perfect example is this morning, my trainer was gone, and I work out with her, I guess, 3 times a week. And she has made the ultimate difference in my health and my strength training. But I'll be darned, Jill, if this morning I was not intentional. And I'm so good at this. Like, I'm so good at making sure that the time I spend is very calculated and that I can be very proud of how I spend it. And this morning, I didn't do that. I woke up, and instead of saying, I am going to sleep in and I'm going to enjoy it because my trainer's not here, or instead of me saying, I'm going to take a walk because I always really enjoy walking as a form of exercise because I'm not strength training. I didn't do any of that. I woke up, went about my day, and I'll be darned if I wasn't sitting down at my desk at the exact same time I always do. And that didn't include the 30 minutes round trip to go see her, the hour of solid working out, and then getting ready on the back end. So I frittered away that time because I wasn't intentional with it. And I don't let myself do that often. I am very, very, very intentional with my time because I don't ever want to feel like I'm wasting it. And I don't want people feeling either that they have to fill up every 5 minutes with something. Like, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, I want you to choose how to spend it. So when you spend it, regardless if it's productive or if it's free time, you feel really good about it in the back end. So, as an example, One of my clients, her family was gone last week. One girl was in camp, the other was at grandparents, and the husband was away for work. And I was like, you know what I want you to do? Nothing. I want you to do nothing. I want you to enjoy it. And I don't want you to feel guilty about doing that. I want you to make the intentional decision of really being able to enjoy your house and the peace and quiet without feeling like you have to do things, get things done. And guess what? When your husband comes home and one of the girls comes home at the weekend, that's when we get to tackle the projects. And let's choose now what those projects are going to be. So that way you already know going in and you can be intentional with doing them. You are not wasting your time. You are able to use that very intentionally when they get back. But right now, I want you to choose nothing. And that way you don't have to be guilty. You don't have to feel guilty about it. You get to know that you really chose to relax and pour back into you. So it's not really the time wasters, Jill, but I did want to double click on the intentionality piece, at least to start with, because I do believe it is what brings people time freedom and leaves, I don't know, it just leaves you in a place of power as opposed to feeling like you're overwhelmed, because at least you can be proud of what you spend it on, even if it's nothing. And that's totally okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that permission slip is huge when we are able to take those times where normally we would just fill it in with little tasks and things on our wish list or maybe even our to-do list, but not even consider, oh, I could take this time to rest, to relax for myself. As moms, I think that it doesn't even factor into our decision making, but when we start to really think about what are the values and be intentional about how we're spending our life, which is how we spend our time. I mean, there's so many parallels to the words that are coming out of your mouth that, to the words that usually come out of my mouth. I feel like I'm interviewing myself in a way here. It's very fun. But I just love that. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, and I think too, like thinking about your world and planning as an example, people have the impression that planning is going to suffocate you, but it doesn't. It actually frees you. When you're able to plan, then you know what your pockets of time are that you can say, yeah, I want to do this. So, as an example, because I took the time to plan out who's on first as it relates to my husband and me doing camp drop-offs during summer, then I get to say when a friend asks me to go for a walk or go to happy hour, I get to say, hell yeah, let's do it. Because I don't have to, like a lot of people will say, I don't know. I have to check my calendar, or I don't know. I'm not sure what my responsibilities will be regarding the kids that day, or whatever it may be, whatever the excuse is. And I don't mean to it as excuses being derogatory as much as I mean it is a lack of clarity, and the lack of clarity is what prohibits you from being able to say yes to things that you might want to say yes to. And certainly, I'm not implying say yes to all the things. Say yes to the things that align with you and that you actually prioritize. What I mean, though, is I want you feeling like you can say yes, because you do know what you have been intentional with your planning, and you have gotten to a place where you have the freedom and flexibility to decide to do something or not do something because you have all of the answers on the table.
And it should be a decision based on like personalized to you. That's the piece also I want to underscore here is understanding that what might work for Jill or for Courtney is not going to be necessarily the same thing that you want to say yes to or the same thing that works for you. And so having the ability and the intentionality to make sure that you're making those decisions based on what works for you and your life and your family and like all of your roles, that is key. I want to also ask you, I know that for like the productivity personas, you took the quiz and it was the energized achiever type that came up for you, which is the one for me. It's kind of like the workaholic one. And I'm wondering how you set boundaries or how you encourage your clients to set boundaries around their time. Like examples like this, I guess you've already given quite a few, but in terms of what is a good boundary to have so that you can actually enjoy the time, still get things done, and not feel guilty. Does that make
Oh
sense?
my gosh, Jill, this is a whole podcast episode, and I
I know.
totally geek out on the topic. I love the topic of boundaries. And I would say this is a cheat answer, but it's so true. There are lots of different types of boundaries. financial, social, emotional, lots of boundaries that we don't think about. Most of the time when people think about boundaries, they only think about time. But truly, boundaries are anything that you allow access to, whether that be you accessing it or other things accessing you. So, as an example, a boundary might be you taking a different route on the way to work so you're not passing Dunkin' Donuts and not getting, not picking up the $4 coffee or the donuts that don't serve your diet. Boundaries, there are just so many different types of them. But the easiest way to think about boundaries goes back to values. And I believe that to my core because when you are clear on what you value, then you know what to prioritize. And when you know what to prioritize, you know how to expend your resources being your time, your money, and your energy. So if you think about social boundaries, same thing. If you think about emotional boundaries, same thing. If you think about financial boundaries, same thing. Time, same thing. Like everything goes back to what you value because your values should inform your priorities. So it is a little bit of a cheat answer, Jill, because it is such a technical question with the little time that we have left. But I think that your values ultimately are what will free you and what should serve as your compass. And when you do that, when you're clear on your values, then you know how to confidently make decisions around something. Then you know whether or not something is your highest and best use. Then you know whether it is worth putting first. Then you know whether it's something you need to do really freaking well, like A plus plus well, or whether in my language, it can become a B minus because it's not something that's worth you doing and being at your best for because it's just not something that materially matters at the end of the day. Like, I truly believe that our values will free us when we're very clear on what they are.
Hmm. Mic drop moment. Yes, thank you. Clear, concise, to the point. You're right that this could be like a whole topic all on its own. But I love that answer. Thank you. Thank you for
Yeah,
that.
I just planned for perspective a 2 hour mastermind for my clients on this topic.
Oh my God.
So it is like it is something that women in particular struggle with in ways that
Mm.
men don't. They are just incredibly transactional compared to us. We are a lot more complex in the way that we give access away for free. But it is like if you just want to simplify your relationship with boundaries, and I would challenge anybody to think about what they value because that's what informs what they prioritize, and it will give you and unlock all of the answers you need.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I love it. I love it. And I want to make sure before we do wrap up that we talk about the freebie that you've got, the to-do list freebie. Can you share about that? It's going to be in the show
Yeah.
notes, but
Yeah,
let's.
thank you. Yeah, thanks for dropping that in the show notes too, Jill. So, my guide on how to more productively manage your to-do list, we talked about it a little bit. It's the difference between a wish list and a to-do list, and I break that down in specific examples and help bring to life for you ways that you manage one versus the other. But the other thing we did not talk about that's also in there is how to engage your male partner, if you are in a heterosexual relationship, in managing that to-do list. It is something that most of my clients struggle with. And it's a very complicated topic to get into the mental load and home equity distribution. And I do not get into that in that document. There are massive courses that are devoted to that one topic alone. But at its simplest sense, men think differently than women. And I broke down for you in that guide how you can easily start to think about engaging your male partner in a way that will help him productively meet you where you are and where he is, but still like kind of getting some of those big pieces off of your plate. In a way that you can trust and truly release the mental load on. So I broke that down for you as well, and hope that that brings you some value.
Yeah, I feel like that is also top of mind for so many listeners of this podcast as well. It's like, yes, I have big ambitions, and yes, I want to prioritize myself, and yes, I want to be a great parent, and yes, and blah blah blah. But I don't have the support, and so how can I start to do all these things without necessarily the support and the structure at home that would allow me to take on some of this extra stuff. So that's going to be
Without you being the one that's constantly doling out the lists. Like I don't know how many men will say, "Oh, just put it in the list. I'll do it if you create a list for me." Well, that's the mental load for you, that it's putting it right back on the woman, which is so unfair. So in that free guide, I talk through one of the simplest ways to be able to pivot some of that energy and put it on him and not absorb the mental load for him.
Love it. Thank you so much. This conversation has been life-giving. It is really important for people to be able to listen to and feel seen and heard in the struggle that can sometimes be time management and mental load and like just the overwhelm that comes with life. If you are a mom who is working towards something, if you have a full life and you're feeling overwhelmed, like this episode really nailed it. So thank you for your time, Courtney. I want to figure out or identify really where is the best place to send people if they want to keep learning from you and working with you. Where do we send them?
Yeah, thank you for asking, Jill. So I love connecting with people on Instagram. My handle is Working Moms Movement. And I also would love for you to tune in to my podcast. It is a life management system for working moms. And Jill, I am very much looking forward to hosting you there here in a couple weeks.
Yeah, me too. That's going to be another really fun conversation. I will make sure that the link for that one, once it's out, is also linked here so you guys can toggle back and forth, keep this conversation going. But before we close, Courtney, is there anything that you want to make sure every listener hears today? Like anything top of mind that maybe we didn't touch on or you just want to reemphasize?
I mean, certainly reemphasizing that your values will free you. But I think one thing that we did not talk about that I believe you talk about often that I would love to just punctuate for you is that you're not failing, my dear friends. Your systems are what's failing you. Our system at large is failing you. So, getting clear on those values will ultimately help inform what you prioritize, which is what informs how you should align your entire home, your entire ecosystem, and build those systems that will ultimately help you buy back your time and help you manage some of that stress. So that's what Jill and I do. That is our bread and butter. We are here to support you through that, both, very tactically, if you are looking for that support. So.
Hmm. Yeah, thank you. And we'd love to hear listeners too. Like what was the thing that landed with you? What is one thing that you're going to start to try this week? Like let us know, tag us on Instagram, reach out on LinkedIn. We are chatting to you as if we are in conversation, but we can't hear you. So please get in touch with us and let us know because we love that. We love to be able to know where things are landing, what people are interested in, what really hit. So, yeah. Thanks again, Courtney, for being here. Thank you guys for listening. And until next week, keep on growing like a mother.